Hello YouTube and fellow DC Comic fans, I'm Keith the One Shot, and this is my Comic Complete Dramatic Reading Series, and today we will be covering Justice League Legacy Part 3 from DC Comics. All art, text, characters, and storylines belong to DC Comics and their respective owners, not me. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to go out and support DC Comics and your local comic book shop. We start this story off at the Kent family farmhouse, where we see Clark having dinner with Lois and John, and their new guest, Hunter Prince, who is from the future. During dinner, John says, "So wait, when you're growing up here in the future, I was your big brother?" Hunter then replies, "Yeah, really big. You're like your dad. It's the shoulders." Then John says, "That's so funny. Dad hadn't told me about time travel, but I know he's done it. The League has loads of times. I gotta tell Damian about this." Hunter then says, "Damian, he used to make fun of me all the time. Haven't seen him since." Then Clark stands up and says, "Maybe Hunter would like a shower and some clean clothes." Then Lois says, "Show him where it is, John." Then John replies, "Okay, Mom." John then grabs Hunter by the arm, pulling him out of his chair. Hunter then says, "I sort of know where it is already." Then John replies, "Yeah, but you can see my room too. I guess you've probably already seen that too, but you can tell me how much cooler it's going to be in 10 years. As Clark and Lois clean up from dinner, and the both are doing the dishes, Clark says to Lois, "Thank you for understanding, Lois. He had nowhere else to go. I couldn't just leave him. The things our life bring to your doorstep." Then Lois replies, "Our doorstep, Clark. Of course you couldn't leave him. You're your father's son. Jonathan's, I mean. I know you, though. What you told me they said? It's bothering you." Then Clark tells Lois, "What if we did cause what happened to them? What happened in Midway City? We knew the Kindred were doing something, but we never bothered to find out what and why. We just dealt with the immediate threat and went on to the next thing. Maybe now it's too late." Lois then tells Clark, "So for as long as I've known you, when has that ever stopped you? You're Superman. It's never too late. You asked before. Why here? Why now? Maybe that's a good question to ask again." Then Clark replies, "What do you mean?" Lois then says to Clark, "Maybe the kids aren't in the wrong time. Maybe they're exactly where they need to be. Here, now, with all of you." We then jump over to Arthur Curry's lighthouse in Amnesty Bay, where we see Serenity swimming with her mother Mara as the two reach land. Serenity says, "So you said he wasn't here. Where is he? Where is Dad?" Mara then replies, "It's complicated, Endora. You and Hunter. Something going on?" Then Serenity says, "It's complicated." Then Mara says, "Hey, what's the matter?" Then Serenity says, "Promise myself I wouldn't do this. Just being with you. It's the past. You're younger than I remember. What if we change things? Get it all wrong. I'm not your daughter. Not really. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Then Mara says, "You are today." We then go to the Foundry in Metropolis, where we see Cyborg and his son Cube, and his father Stylus Stone. Stylus then says, "The technology that's inside him is so far beyond what we did to you, Victor. It's beyond nanotechnology as a concept. It's recognizable as a mother box tech, but this is different. It's like his DNA is part human, part something else. Technology, I suppose. This is beyond even next level for this root technology. It's a huge evolution." Then Cyborg says, Dad, talk to him. He's your grandson." Stylus then stands up and says, Yes, of course. Hello, young man. Then Cube says, "Stylus Stone, Victor's father and my grandfather. We've never met as you died sometime before I was born. 3 years from now, in fact. You should consider a healthier diet and more exercise." Cyborg then smiles and says, "Gets his social skills from you, obviously." Cyborg then tells Cube, "I can feel you reaching out. You're accessing all the world's networks, aren't you, George?" Then Cube replies, "Call me Cube. And yes, it's wonderful. All the information, all the data from every conversation and message to every file on every computer in the world. It's like I'm alive again. For the last few years after the war, there was nothing. No signals, no information. It was like being deaf and blind. A technological marvel in a dark age." Then Cyborg replies, "That must have been hard for you." Then Cube says, "I was never alone, though. Before you died, you left me a copy of yourself, your systems. It wasn't the same as having you to join with, but at least I can still talk to you. That's more than the others ever had in the end." Stylus Stone then says, "Joining. You and Victor can connect with each other?" Then Cube replies, "I can't join with you, Grandfather Stylus, but I can with you, Dad. Would you like to join now?" Then Cyborg answers, "Very much." We then go to Barry Allen's apartment in Central City, where we see the Flash and Cruz. As Cruz says, "How many times to New York and back?" Then Flash replies, "Okay, I admit it. You're really fast, Cruz." Then Cruz says, "Faster than you, Dad?" Barry then changes out of his flash suit and says, "Faster than me. Maybe a bit." Then Cruz replies in excitement, "Yes." Then Jessica Cruz walks in and says, "Hey, the twins are asleep. Keep the noise down." Then Cruz replies, "Oops, sorry, Mom. You don't mind if I call you Mom, do you?" Then Jessica says, "No, I actually don't think I mind." Cruz hugs Jessica, then says, "This is so cool." Then Cruz checks on the twins and sees that they are both glowing blue. Then Cruz says, "Hey, they're blue. They've never been blue before." Jessica shuts the door, then says, "The Blue Lanterns. That's Hope." And Cruz replies, "Hope? Hasn't been much of that around in a while." Then Jessica says, "Well, now that you found us, maybe there'll be a bit more. Hey, aren't you tired?" Cruz answers, "Me? No, I never get tired." Then she sits on the couch next to Barry and gives him a hug. Then Barry says, "Really? Hey, Cruz, she's asleep. Even does that fast." Then Jessica says to Barry, "You think this is really our future, Barry?" Then Barry replies, "Could be, maybe not. I've time traveled enough to know that a small change can lead to a vastly different future. They need our help. Isn't that enough, Jessica?" Then Jessica replies, "Yes, it is." We then go to Midway City, which is being sealed and contained by Simon, Baz, and Argus. We then see Simon talking with Steve Trevor, as Simon says, "They have to stay isolated, Steve. There's some sort of contagion in there that passed to them. I'm keeping this quarantine indefinitely, Trevor." Steve then replies, "I read the report en route, Simon. You and the League were in there too. How do we know you're not infected as well?" Then Simon says, "That's a good question." And Steve replies, "Any way you can check, Simon? I'm gonna have to be sure you're clear." Simon then tells Steve, "Let's take a look. Whatever it is has to be able to move from one place to another, either as a pathogen or some sort of energy wavelength, right?" Then Steve replies, "If you say so, you're the space cop." Simon scans the area, then says, "No unusual organic particles. Let's try energy frequencies." Whoa, okay, that got something. Hang on, I think I can isolate the frequency and make it visible. Then suddenly, a black energy begins shooting out of the ground. Then Steve Trevor readies his gun and says, "Seen that before?" Simon replies, "No, you." Then Steve says, "No, scanned yourself?" Simon Baz says, "I'm clear." Then Steve replies, "Great." Then the black energy flies around Steve. So Simon shines his ring's light on him and says, "So are you, so I won't have to shoot you either." Then Steve replies, "So what are you going to do about all this?" Simon then shines his light as bright as he can. Then he says, "Once you and Argus have finished the evac, I'm going to permanently lock this down until we can all figure out how to counter whatever that is." Then Steve replies, "Sounds like a plan. Keep me posted." Simon then raises his ring in the air as he says, "Will do." We then hear a voice say, "Here, like before, different, more, find, grow, feed, feast." Simon turns around and says, "Huh? I thought I heard something." We then go to the Kent family farmhouse, where Hunter is looking into his room. As Clark walks up the stairs, he says to Hunter, "You okay? Those clothes don't fit you too bad. We can get some proper stuff for you tomorrow." Hunter then replies, "This was my room when I lived here. Live here. Sorry. Hard to keep track. This was my own small world. Safe. That's how it felt." Then Clark says, "Tell me." Then Hunter replies, "I can remember everything about it. The bed sheets, the toys, the smell, the sounds, everything. I can remember the stories you read to me. Lois holding me when I was crying in the night. The way the shadows of the trees moved across the ceiling in the moonlight. The sound you made flying down from the clouds. The soft thump as you landed by the back porch. I remember every second of every minute I spent in here. Every single one. In the dark times, when we huddled in fear, in pain, I think about those seconds. I try to live in them again, to drown out the world. Sometimes it worked." Then Clark replies, "I can't pretend to know how you must feel. I'm sorry." Hunter then sits down on his bed and tells Clark, "Don't be. You give me a home, family, love. It's more than I ever got from my mother." Then Clark replies, "I can't imagine the Diana I know abandoning anyone, let alone her own child." Then Hunter says, "Yeah, well, I don't have to imagine it. I've lived it." Then Clark takes a seat next to Hunter and tells him, "Diana's a proud person, stubborn, but as angry as she can get. She has a compassion for the whole world." Then Hunter responds, "Just none for me." And Clark says with a sympathetic look on his face, "You're welcome here as long as you want to be. This can be your room again." Hunter then smiles as he tells Clark, "I might be too old for stories." Then Clark replies, "Never too old for stories. I'm gonna go help Lois with the clearing up. Just come down when you're ready." Then Hunter says, "Thank you, Clark. Dad." Clark then goes to leave the room. Then he turns around and says, "When the darkness infects the world, what happens to John?" Then Hunter answers, "You have to understand. We were hidden away for our safety. I don't know everything about that time." Then Clark says, "What happens to John?" Hunter then stands up and says, "He was my age then, older. He fought at his father's side. He died there too." Then Clark says, "Lois?" And Hunter hangs his head low and replies, "I'm sorry." Clark then puts his arm on Hunter's shoulder and says, "We'll beat this somehow. We'll find a way to stop this darkness." Then Hunter replies, "You couldn't before. Not even together. Not all of you. It was already too late when the kindred sang. Why didn't you stop them?" Clark turns around and says, "We did. We saved everybody almost." Hunter replies, "You didn't." Then Clark says, "We did the best we could with what we knew at the time. We stopped the purge. Stopped the world-breaking machines. We stopped the kindred too." Hunter then shouts, "But they sang. And that song doomed the world. Maybe more. You should have destroyed the kindred. It's what we came here to do." Then Clark replies, "That would have killed thousands of innocent men and women and children, all caught up inside them." Clark then tells Hunter, "If you grew up in my home, if I raised you, then you know I would never make that choice. Even knowing what I know now, under those same circumstances, I would make the same choice again." Hunter then yells, "I know you would. You always believed you could save everybody, and I know you couldn't. I've seen it, lived it. The few of us who are left are a testament to what that belief really gave the world. Then Clark says, you came back here, believing you could change your own future, save your world. We still can. Then Hunter turns away and tells Clark, it feels so good being back here, home with you all, but it's an illusion, an echo. You're already dead, and have been for years. It just hasn't happened yet. We then go to the Justice League Watchtower, where we see Wonder Woman is lost in her thoughts. Then a voice says, you do not understand yourself, and your place in this. You will have a part to play, but it is not now, not here, not today. You know who we are. Soon, you will know who you are. Wonder Woman then asks, Jeannie? And Jeannie answers, hello, Diana. Would you like to play a game? Then Diana replies, no, I'm not feeling playful right now. And Jeannie says, neither was Bruce. Diana then says, I'd like to review some old video files, just after the Kindred event. I'm sure Victor has them archived. Then Jeannie responds, are these the ones? As she pulls up the video of the battle against the Kindred. Then Diana says, the Watchtower ones, from just after that. Jeannie replies, okay, yes, Victor had them, just like you thought. Bruce was looking at them too, before his friend arrived. Shall we play a game? As Diana is looking over the video in the Watchtower, she says, they said I had a part to play in what's coming. Then Jeannie says, any idea what that might have meant? And Diana answers, none. They said soon you will know who you are. Pause. I learned that much I thought was true about myself was a lie. Now more than ever, even without my lasso, I can feel the truth of things. Show me the fear creature. Jeannie then responds, what are you hoping to find in all these archives, Diana? Then Wonder Woman says, the truth. It's all connected. Show me Midway City. I stood in that place and felt it. Everything those people felt as they tore each other apart. Their fear, their hatred. I recognized it, like that fear creature, but much, much worse, much more powerful. Wonder Woman then watches the video of the children from the future coming through the portal. Then she says, then that portal from the future opened, and those children came through. I felt it again, just for a moment, in the world on the other side. The future, a future I could feel my part in, and it was like a great wound, pain, fear and hatred that could kill anyone and everything it touched. I have been testing the truth of this since those children arrived. Longer, I've been pushing at these thoughts, echoes of memories I don't have yet, since I first encountered the Kindred, and as I push at them, I can find no trace of falsehood in any of this. What if the darkness that comes, the conflict that will cause the death of billions, what if that war was with me? Meanwhile, we see Cube sending a message saying, Hunter, we need to talk. We then go to the Kent family farmhouse, where Lois walks into her bedroom. Then she finds Clark sitting at their bed. Then she closes the door and says, John's finally asleep. He's very excited to start showing Hunter around. Clark then replies, that a good idea? He's troubled. Then Lois sits down next to Clark and says, give him time, Clark. He's been through so much. This is going to be a big adjustment for Hunter. He's going to need our help, and a lot of it. We then see Hunter in his room. He's talking to a projection of Cube. Then Hunter says, Cube, are you sure about this? Cube then replies, she's sure. I was connected to the Watchtower. I heard everything she said. What do you think it means? Hunter then tells Cube, it means there's still a chance to save our future. We have to kill Wonder Woman. And that ends today's story. Comic published by DC Comics. All rights, story art, and characters belong to DC Comics and their respective owners. Not me. This has been Justice League Legacy Part 3, and I'm your host, Keith One Shot. If you like this video, make sure to check out the rest of my Comic Complete dramatic reading series, and support DC Comics by picking up a copy of the trades and single issue comics. Support your local comic book shop. Take care and have a great day. Goodbye!